Good morning, dear colleagues.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
We are
We are
fine.
good.
This morning, I am happy to share to you a topic that is very timely and relevant to our profession. So this morning, we will try to read the quote in front, and then we will try to reflect on how this saying is applicable in our profession. Okay, Sir Andy, can you read?
We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are.
Okay,
By Oprah Winfrey.
Okay, we can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are. We cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. So, how do you think, sir or ma'am, are we going to apply, or how is this quote relevant to our profession as teachers? Sir Andy?
Based on my understanding regarding in that phrase, ma'am, it talks about as a teacher we need to upgrade our knowledge and skills in order for us to become efficient teacher. So we need to upgrade basing on today's generation.
Thank you so much, Sir Andy. That's right. It means that we need to upgrade. No? As a teacher, it is a big no for us to remain stagnant. We must always pursue continuous education so that we can become what we need to be for our learners. Okay, thank you so much, Sir Andy, for sharing to us your insights. So this morning, what we're going to talk about is definitely all about us upgrading as well. No? We also need to upgrade. So, as teachers, annually, we actually try to assess our performance and see where we can upgrade ourselves. So last February 2021, the Department of Education actually released a memorandum that talks about, or that actually modifies the guidelines for our results-based performance management, so that it will be more aligned, it will be matched to our learning delivery or approach these times of pandemic. So this is the one. So here, it is specifically modified or initiated to address emerging circumstances or challenges brought about by the pandemic. So now, after the release of the memorandum, now we have undergone different trainings and workshops so that we will be educated or oriented. So the first training that we had is actually a national training through Facebook Live. No, this one, conducted by DepEd Philippines. This one from February 1 to 3. An online webinar on results-based performance management. And then the second one is we also had our own division initiative training on RPMS, which happened during our mid-year inset. But then this time, because I would like to reinforce what we learned or to refresh what we have learned in those orientations or webinars. We're going to have today our school-based orientation on results-based performance management. So for today's activity, what we are expected or you are expected to achieve are the following. To review the components of individual performance commitment and review form or IPCRF for proficient teachers. Next is to identify and compile our available means of verification. Then, to review the indicators of the classroom observation tool for proficient teachers. And finally, we have to come up with our own tentative, meaning not final, but then an initial development plan. So now, here is the question for us teachers. Just like our students, we assess them, evaluate their That's right. We need to assess our performance so that we will know our standing and identify where we are at. We have 5 key result areas. So, here A1, here A2, 3 until 5. So now, I would like you to look at the handouts I have given to you, which is the RPMS tool for proficient teachers just like us. So, here, you can see, okay, let us view that tool. In here, you can see that we must first fill out or fill in the necessary or the date information being asked for our position and competency profile. So this is the first part of the tool. And then, moving further, on the second page, now we are reminded of the duties and responsibilities that are expected of us, no, our roles that we must play and we must realize. Then, on the next part, we are now going to the specific for each key result area. The first one is the content, knowledge, and pedagogy. We have the first objective, the applied knowledge of content within and across teaching curriculum. So what are the different means of verification which will prove that you have actually realized the said objective or demonstrated the said competency? So the first is the main MOV of all the MOVs. We have our classroom observation tool, rating sheet, or inter-observer agreement form. So there are actually 3 options or 3 types of teaching demonstrations that can be observed. First is that you can have an online observation, asynchronous online observation. The second one is through a video lesson. And finally, the third one, which we are applying here or utilizing here in Labina Elementary School, we have our teaching demonstration through our lab session. So for this one, we only try to look at the quality, no, of doing or realizing the competency. So you will get outstanding if you will receive a rating of 7 in your COT. Okay. Now, how many MOVs are required for the first objective? We have the first one. The first objective requires 2 COTs in which each of the COT ratings are taken into consideration. We try to get its scale rating through the standards given or specified in the form. And then we write it, then we get the average of the 2 COT ratings, and finally we get the point through the use of the RPMS rating transmutation table. So let's proceed to the second one. Now we have the second objective. Still the same, we have these that are expected of us, no, our roles that we must play and we must realize. Then, on the next part, we are now going to the specific for each key result area. The first one is the content, knowledge, and pedagogy. We have the first objective, the applied knowledge of content within and across teaching curriculum. So what are the different means of verification which will prove that you have actually realized the said objective or demonstrated the said competency? So the first is the main MOV of all the MOVs. We have our classroom observation tool, rating sheet, or inter-observer agreement form. So there are actually 3 options or 3 types of teaching demonstrations that can be observed. First is that you can have an online observation, asynchronous online personal growth and professional development. So we have the ninth objective, which is all about build relationships with parents, guardians, and the wider school community to facilitate involvement in the educative process. So there are actually a lot of MOVs for this objective. First, you can use distribution of learning materials to learners' parents. We have the Brigada Eskwela Commitment Form. We also have the home visitation form and others. If you're going to use other MOVs which could still be used or applicable for the said objective, we just have to provide annotations. Then, finally, for the second type of MOV, we can have the parent-teacher lab or proof of other stakeholders meeting. So, as long as you, especially minutes of online or face-to-face meeting or during parents' orientation. The third type is any form of communication that we have done with the parents or stakeholders. Example, notice of meeting, screenshot of chat or text. We can also use that one. So, for this objective, we will be evaluated with the quality. So we have here for the outstanding, we have to meet the criteria of any of the following to gain a rating. And then efficiency, wherein for outstanding we need 4 of the acceptable MOV specified. So how many MOVs are required? So here it stated at least 4 of the MOVs. Then now, here for our professional or personal growth and professional development, this objective is specifically targeting personal and growth and development. So we have participated in professional networks to share knowledge and enhance to practice. So the following are the means of verification. Usually they come in the form of certificates of completion of training and the like. So let's go back. So earlier, it was discussed on how we are going to get a final rating for the RPMS or RTC-RF. So we use this computation. We first try to get the rating, compare it on the 5-point scale rating standard in the IPCRF. We get the average of the 2 MOVs and then we find the category of the average in the RPMS transmutation table. So 3.5 belongs to a very satisfactory. So you will have the final rating of 4 for that objective. Now, and because we are here with our main MOV, it is said that the classroom observation tool is the main MOV of all the MOVs. In COT, there are actually 3 forms that are utilized. First, we have the rating sheet in which the observer rates us as we do our demonstration teaching. Then the second one is the observation notes, where the observer records his or her observations during our demonstration. And finally, if there are two or more observers, they have to come up with a consensus so that we can have our final rating. They will use the inter-observer agreement form. Then, so what happens during our demonstration teaching or when COT tool will be utilized? So there are actually 3 stages in demonstration teaching. The first stage that we need to undergo is the pre-observation or pre-conference, wherein together with the rater or raters, we discuss the RPMS rubric in which will be used in rating our teaching performance. Then the second stage would be the observation or during the demonstration teaching. The rater will use the observation notes form. And finally, after the demonstration teaching or post-observation, the rating sheet will be utilized or the inter-observer agreement form, and there will be the discussion of the results of your teaching demo. Now, for this one, as I said earlier, on the first phase of RPMS cycle, we need to have the planning. And it involves the answering of the electronic self-assessment tool so that we can come up with this important MOV known as the Individual Development Plan. So it is usually created after we accomplish ESAT. And this one will be the basis for our teacher trainings or staff development, which will be realized through LAC or EDSET. So this is an example of the IPCRF development plan, or the template rather, for the IPCRF development plan, which is very important. No, an important MOV that will support our personal growth and professional development. So we have the column for strengths, development needs, the action plan, the timeline, and the resources needed. So we can only fill this out if we have already with us the result of our ESAT. So what result are we? So in the ESAT, we have here the different PPST domain.